My colleague Manish Chibbar and I are delighted to welcome you to this edition of Express Adda, and we are particularly privileged to have as our guest Ravi Shankar Prasad. Ravi Shankar Prasad has had a very long and large career as a lawyer as well as a politician, studied with very important responsibilities. He started off as a student leader in the JP movement. He was a minister in the last Vajpayee government. He's held very, very prominent party posts in the BJP. And currently, he's Minister of Information Technology and Telecommunications, two departments that are absolutely crucial to both the Modi government's promise of change as well as to what is known as India's growth story. As Minister of this department, he has presided over the Digital India program. He's also, on his watch, we've seen a turnaround in the fortunes of the BSNL and a reinvention of the postal department in a way that it is not losing out to technology, but it is part of the story of change. So, Mr. Prasad, if I could begin by asking you, this has been the season of report cards and stock takings of 2 years in government. Your department or your ministry has been particularly scarred. It has had a particularly scarred history. Former telecom minister was arrested. The secretary was also arrested. So when you came to this ministry 2 years ago, what was the biggest challenge for you and how did you deal with it in these 2 years?
Very interesting. When I took oath and went to my office, I sit in Sanchar Bhavan. It was in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I was advised, should I change my chair? Because I was said one of my esteemed predecessors has gone to jail and others may follow soon. I took a vow that I will not change the chair, but I will change the texture of the chair. And today I can say with some sense of satisfaction that middlemen are completely banned in Sanchar Bhavan. The same spectrum auction we held where we raised 1,10,000 crores. All the rules which were not decided for 8 to 10 years, Vandita, spectrum sharing, spectrum trading, liberalization, harmonization have been cleared by me. And today the rules of the game are very clear. So that's what I have been able to do. The rest is for all of you to decide. But yes, I'm happy about that the telecom sector has received about 27,000 crore of FDI in the last 2 years, the highest ever. Telephony is rising, density is rising, investment is rising. And I am particularly satisfied about the turnaround of BSNL you pointed out. The BSNL story is very simple. When Vajpayee government left office, BSNL was in a profit of 10,000 crore. When Manmohan Singh government left office, BSNL was in a loss of 8,000 crore. The rest I leave it to you to infer. I am not supposed to comment. Within 1 year, 1.5 years, it earned our operating profit of 672 crores. This year, I hope it will earn 2,000 crore plus operating profit. And the most important is the number of customers, which was 8 lakh last year, is now 23 lakhs per month. And Vandita, don't forget one thing. Why PSU turnaround is important? They have to suffer the minister. They have to face parliamentary questions. They have to face standing committee. They have to face CVC, CBI, and you, the media. And yet you have to turn around, and CAG. And in way, why it is a personal satisfaction for me, in Vajpayee government, I was the coal and mines minister. I had turned around the Coal India also. It was a loss of 1,400 crore. And within 1.5 years, we turned it around to 1,500 crores. My take, Vanita, is very clear. The same people, if you create a good ecosystem of encouragement and inspiration, they deliver. And same in the postal story. Today, I will request all my friends sitting here, you just go to Parel. There is a big e-commerce center of postal department, fully automated, which I have inaugurated. The dirty bags of the postman used to be thrown there. And now the parcel revenue has grown phenomenally. So the same turnaround can happen. That's what we are trying.
Sir, welcome. Sir, if I can just ask you, we have been hearing about the merger of BSNL and MTNL. Is that happening?
Well, BSNL was very ill. MTNL is very, very ill. That is the thing. BSNL, I have turned around. MTNL is a process. If you merge two very, very ill identities, the result is going to be zero. Okay. Therefore, I'm happy that MTNL is also promising well. I'm keeping my card close to my chest. But you're right, Manish. What I have decided is, told them, that more closer working understanding must come. Sharing of infrastructure, etc. That is in place.
Mr. Prasad, one of the criticisms of your ministerial tenure has been the call drops issue. You've been called the call drops minister as well. Now, we know that it's a very complicated matter. There are arguments on the side of the service operators as well as on the part of TRAI. But the court, for instance, struck down TRAI's attempt to penalize them. Now, what is the way forward, do you think? How can service standards be improved?
Well, I can only tell you this. All the policy initiative, Madhita, which was pending for the last 5 to 10 years, I have cleared. As I said, spectrum trading, spectrum sharing, liberalization. I have been speaking very publicly on this whole uncalled for menace of radiation, having no medical basis. WHO report is there. I have done my job, and I have been telling the operators, you need to do your job. You need to reinforce the infrastructure. You must identify the gaps. I will not comment upon the Supreme Court judgment, because that is what I tried to say. But I can only tell you that because of our persuasion, they have installed 1 lakh new sites in India. In Delhi alone, about 6,000. And I am telling them very clear that for the success of digital India, a good connectivity is important, and it is your interest to do so. And I must acknowledge the role of telecom operators for having spread telephony in the entire country. Okay? I think they have got the ability, they have got the potential. They need to do it. And we will be monitoring it, we are working together. I hope things have started improving, they need to improve further.
So, sir, if I can also ask, another supplementary to this, the Supreme Court intervened in this call drop issue. So, last month, Mr. Jaitley also talked about the Lakshman Rekha that the courts have to. So, isn't this one more instance of the judiciary, interfering in executive issues?
You're talking to the senior lawyer or the former law minister?
Former law minister and a senior advocate, sir.
Well, I will say only this. We are proud of our judiciary. They have done a great job. You know, Manish, very well that many of the leading PIL of order scam I argued. In case of corruption, the judiciary has done a great job. Therefore, and they have got the power to strike down any wrong law or anything. That power I acknowledge. But I would like to very gently remind that the Supreme Court in the famous Keshwan Bharti case has held that separation of power is also a basic structure. Governance is a part of the government. And if there is no decision properly taken, the court can quash it aside or give a direction. But governance should remain the preserve of the executive. That's the law of the land. The Supreme Court has said in the famous Keshwan Bharti case as a basic structure. And Manish, you are a very seasoned journalist in the field of law. Basic structure means we sitting in the parliament cannot even undo that. That's how I see it.
Another law that the Supreme Court struck down was piloted by you, the NJSC Act, which promised transparency in the appointments in higher judiciary. Do you still think, sir, NJSC was a good idea?
Well, the Supreme Court judgment has come. But I said, while holding very dearly the concept of independence of judiciary, accountability of judiciary is equally important. And why we went for National Judicial Commission, Manish, it was not my decision. About 3-4 parliamentary standing committee recommendations, Administrative Reform Commission recommendations, Law Commission recommendations, and late J.S. Verma, the author of 1993 judgment, himself publicly said, the collegium system needs a review. The entire parliament spoke in one voice. Vandita, 20 state legislatures spoke in one voice. Now the judgment has come. I cannot make any further comment. That is how it stands. But surely the National Judicial Commission architecture was a well thought of architecture with extraordinary unanimous political consensus by lawmakers.
Just as you've handled the law ministry, you've also handled the INB ministry in the past. And there is a controversy, particularly in the last couple of days, over film censorship. We've seen what has been happening around the film Udta Punjab. And the general perception, the backdrop is that the censor board continues to function in unreformed ways, that it is not a body of film certification as its mandate was, but it is now, it is continuing to censor and to snip away at films. What would you say about this controversy? 89 cuts are reported to have been suggested. They've even reportedly asked that Punjab should be taken out of the title and the film should be relocated in some fictional land. How would you react to this?
Well, I have been the Information Broadcasting Minister of India in the Vajpayee government. And Vanita, let me say very clearly and categorically, we fully respect creative freedom. That is very, very clear as far as our government is concerned. And this government has no role whatsoever. A specific part I should not go into because I am not aware of the specific issues except what is there in the media. I would like to only say that there is a proper legal procedure. If there is wrong cuts, you can go for review, you can go for the appellate tribunal. While coming here, I just saw a headline that Bombay High Court has also been approached. So there is a proper legal process. But as far as our government is concerned, we fully respect creative freedom.
But sir, the censor board chief today said that he likes to be called the chamcha of the Prime Minister.
I don't know what to say. Let me say this. Comments like these need to be avoided. Secondly, I would like to gently remind that our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, with such a popular mandate, has always described himself as the Pradhan Sevak of India. And I don't think Pradhan Sevak needs any sycophant. That's all I have to say.
You spoke of the role of government just now. So there's another issue where the government looks like a pesky grandmother, you know, this matrimonials. Now, why should government be in the business of monitoring whether the people who come onto those matrimonial sites are coming just for dating or they actually intend to marry? Why should they be asked to furnish their identity proofs and their proof of residence? Why should the government be in this business, Mr. Prasad?
Government is not in the business of regulating matrimonial arrangements at all. Be very clear about it. But since you have asked this question, I would have been happy if you called Maneka ji to ask these questions to her. Because a lot of complaints came to the Ministry of Women and Child Development as to how the matrimonial sites are being abused. There have been serious issues. The whole thing was examined by both the ministries. A proper committee was there. There was a feedback. And what the site is, please use this only for matrimonial purposes. I am not in the business of banning any dating site, okay? That is not my temperament. But what the regulations enjoin is, please disclose your identity by those who seek to go there for seeking suitors. Disclose your identity, and there are verifiable platforms available to disclose that. And you must ensure that it is used for matrimonial purposes only. That's all we have said. So what is wrong with this, I fail to understand. And this has come about in the wake of serious grievances, representation, request handled by the Ministry of Women and Child Development.
Mr. Prasad, it's an increasingly young country. We have the largest young population. Don't you think the government looks prudish if government says date, don't date, only marry?
I don't know how do you get this inference that I am against dating. Please, please. Surely a lot of dating sites may be available. I'm only saying matrimonial site. Let me give a counterpoint to you. So many newspapers also run matrimonial columns, long columns. Do they also say it is also for dating purposes? I'm asking a question. Now, it is not my personal decision. A lot of complaints came to the Ministry of Women and Child Development, debated, discussed. For instance, this panic button on mobile phone, how it has come about. Lots of women used to complain, can the mobile give us some security? We debated, discussed, again went to ministry. And in this government, we don't work in silos, we work in coordination. And I have signed a regulation. What is that? From the next year, if a woman is under distress, she can press that button, her people, her relations, police would be immediately activated. She needs help. Therefore, if technology is being used to give security and safety, good. Technology needs to be used for that. From the next year, January 2018, I have issued an order that all the new phones must have GPS locations. In the event a woman is thought to be under trouble or is being harassed, the moment she presses the button, her location will be known. So these are all designed to ensure women's safety and security.
Sir, Department of Posts, that small dak khana, that is changing in this government. So what are the changes that you are bringing in? Suddenly we hear so many things about the dak khana.
The first, when I became minister of any department, I pick up some priorities. And turnaround of postal department was a part of that commitment of mine. Postal department, Vandita, is like an old lady in Ghungat in a village, 150 years old. I said, come out. I have 150,000 post offices in the country. I pushed them into e-commerce. And I'm happy to tell you that this platform because letters are losing their relevance. SMS, mobile phones are there. Manish, I must tell you, what is the digital identity of India? 1 billion plus mobile phone, 1 billion plus Aadhaar, and 400 million internet. That's the digital profile. I said you have to become digital first. And about 22,000 plus branches are core banking solution. They are being digitized. I'm going to give a handheld device to all my village post offices, ATM. They will go for banking, insurance. Next year, March, I have to do. And I push them into e-commerce. And I'm very happy to share with you that their revenue has risen by 80% of e-commerce revenue of the postal department. I put right this speed post, and CIG said postal department speed post is the best. I'm happy they are turning around, and as you know it very well, Payment Bank we are going to launch from September this year. 650 branches of Postal Payment Bank will be there in the entire country. It will be a great platform of financial inclusion in the rural hinterland. And how exciting it is, Manish, that we just got the approval and 50 international and national consortiums are keen to partner with Post. And who are these? Barclays of London, Deutsche Bank of Germany, Citibank, World Bank, all are keen to partner because of the wide platform of Postal. Therefore, the same people, you just gave them encouragement. And again, I repeat, go to Parel and see that processing center of e-commerce, fully digitized with conveyor belts, where they used to throw dirty bags of the postman. This is how change can happen.
Mr. Prasad, BharatNet is supposed to underpin the whole Digital India program. But there have been two kinds of issues. It has been missing its own targets. And there have been issues of last mile connectivity. How do you take it to the Gram Panchayat? There is talk now of PPP mode in BharatNet. What is the way forward, and what has been the main stumbling block?
You must understand, India laid down optical fiber for 10 lakh kilometers in 30 years. We have to take 7 lakh kilometers in 3 years. Earlier it was no fun, Vandita, now it is BharatNet. When I had become minister, only 358 kilometers optical fiber had been laid in 3 years. We have laid 1,20,000 kilometers in 2 years. That's the speed we are working with. I am not happy with it. Every day, more than 250 kilometers plus are being added. Therefore, we will complete in time. There will be some spillovers. In the second phase, we will contemplate for SPV model also with the state governments. You rightly said how to go beyond the Gram Panchayat. And there we are taking the services of common service centers in the rural hinterland, which are giving digital services to the rural people, banking, insurance. We are going to give them internet service provider license so that they can go by Wi-Fi from the Gram Panchayat to the villages. I can tell you, Vandita, India digitally is changing very fast. Yesterday I was in Jodhpur and a young Dalit Sarpanch of a Gram Panchayat came to meet me. Sir, I have made an app for my Gram Panchayat. Will you inaugurate? At a click of a button, all the services were on the app. India is changing very fast. And second, one example I would like to share. 1 month ago, I learned about Satamma of Telangana, a Bidi Majdoor. She became digitally literate. I tweeted to congratulate. She became a celebrity. TV channels talked to her. Then I chose to talk to her personally and congratulate. She doesn't know Hindi or English, only Telugu. I talked to her through an interpreter. I asked her how you became digitally literate. And the reply she gave is an image of changing India. She said, I have a son who is a plumber in Dubai. I was missing him and my grandson. I was told, if you want to see their face, go on a Skype. And to operate a Skype, I became digitally literate. That's the changing India happening. E-commerce, 65% coming from rural hinterland. The changing phase of India.
Mr. Prasad, as you said, India is changing, but we don't seem to be changing along with, the technological change that is coming up. We don't seem to be stepping up to it. For instance, Section 66A, on which both the BJP and the Congress were guilty of very, very ambiguous positions, was struck down by the court. But you would also know that too many arrests are happening for people putting up what are deemed to be objectionable posts on Facebook. These are mostly, invariably, political comments against the government of the day. What do you think needs to be done? Is it that our IPC needs to be changed to cater, to bring us on par with technological change?
First thing, since you asked about BJP on 66A, when I became minister, it was a pending case from before. Manish will confirm that. When I saw the affidavit, I completely disagreed with this. I was then the law minister also, beside being IT communication minister. I told my law officer, tell the Supreme Court I am myself revisiting it. Give us time. I will change it completely if need be. They said, no, we'll proceed with the hearing. Then we changed the affidavit. And the particular part I would like to highlight, we said, if the Supreme Court does not feel convinced that 66A of the IT Act is not in consonance of Article 19(2) of the Constitution, where we say in the interest of national security it can be regulated freedom of press, we don't support it. Supreme Court has quashed. This is where it stands. On the second part of the various arrests, let me make my observation. We who are in public life must learn to enjoy humor, cartoon, fun and young. It is a part of democratic life. But having said that, I must reiterate one thing. On the issue of terrorism, on the issue of extremism, on the issue of communal violence, authorities need to intervene to avoid very serious situation. And Vanita, one day I will request you to come with me to the Certain, where some of the posts being sought to be posted on these media must be seen by yourself as to what kind of posts are sought to be there. Therefore, only to avoid terrorism, extremism, communal violence, surely there is need for interventions. But larger issue of freedom of press, of all of us are active on social media, our Prime Minister, the biggest followers. I take complaints of Postal Department inaction on Twitter, on Facebook. And here before you, I would like to particularly say, an Indian from Australia sent me a complaint on my Facebook that she has sent a consignment to her widowed mother in Ludhiana, 2 months not delivered. I send an advisory, if by tomorrow evening it is not delivered, action will follow. It was delivered by the afternoon itself. So we're also on Twitter and Facebook taking complaints for redressal of grievances.
We'll take some questions, but before that, sir, if I can just ask you, so are you suggesting or are you assuring us that anybody sitting in this room, if he has a complaint with his BSNL phone, he can complain to you on your Twitter?
Yes, I will take it. And I have also sensitized all my department. I think my people are also sitting, they have been called, I don't know. But all the postal departments all over the country, BSNL, have been sensitized to have a proper platform for taking complaints on grievances of the consumers and redress it, and they can also approach me directly. That's what we are doing.
Before we open up for questions, Mr. Prasad, you are seen as a very moderate voice in the government. You have, over your career, always remained at the center of things. You have been a voice of reason and calm. How do you react to voices that keep piping up in your party and in the larger parivar. For instance, the latest is, Sadhvi Prachi. She has made some anti-Muslim comments. She was given a Lok Sabha ticket. She didn't win the election, but she was given a Lok Sabha ticket by your party in UP. Then on Dadri, again, when the report came in on whether or not it was beef, there have been a spate of voices going up to Union Minister of State, Sanjeev Balyan. How would you look at those? Because you cannot keep saying these are fringe voices. We have a Minister of State saying that, we have to find out where the beef went. A cow weighs so many kgs and who ate it. And the family has to be criminalized after losing their, a member of the family being lynched. Now they must be criminalized for having purportedly eaten beef. So how would you react to these voices that keep coming up?
Well, as far as these voices are concerned, first our commitment, right from the Prime Minister to the entire government, when we say Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, it is like that. And how India is changing, Vandita, you have seen in a Vidya Bharati Rani school in Assam, a Muslim boy topped the entire examination in Assam. That's the kind of inclusive conduct we do on the ground level. Some of the comments we don't appreciate. It has been conveyed in very clear terms. And I would not wish to comment upon individual comment of individual people. The view of the party is indeed very, very clear. You said about the beef issue, I'm not sitting in judgment about the eating habit of people, okay? But this is the hard fact that there are issues of sentiment also. And what is happening in Dadri is an issue of law and order of Mulayam Singh and Akhilesh Yadav government. If they have to take some action, let them take some action. Now, this question need not be asked to us. Yes, sentiments at times create problem. They do. It is important for the law and order machinery to ensure that there is a very sane resolution of all this. That's how I like to see it.
But sir, the question is being asked of you because a Union Minister of State has joined in that kind of a clamor for a case against the family where Muhammad Ikhlaq was lynched. So this is why the question is asked of your government, because a Union Minister of State has joined in that clamor.
I don't think he has joined that camp. He is a local MP or a joining part. Maybe he would have made some comment, but as far as the media report is concerned, he has not joined any protest there per se. But let me again repeat, we have right from the Prime Minister to everyone, we have condemned what happened, the lynching part of it. And we stand very firmly. But again I repeat, Vandita, the issue has to be handled as a law and order by the state government. The failure of the state government of Mulayam Singh and Akhilesh, how it can be fastened on us? This is a simple question I'm asking. Therefore, if some action is to be taken, they need to take action. Now we heard about a new report of the quality of the meat. I think these issues could have been handled carefully and tactfully by the local administration.
We'll take some questions. Yeah. Can we have the mic, please? If you could identify yourself.
So my name is Nikhil Sani from Yes Bank. Wonderful work that has definitely happened in your department. One question, sir, I had was specifically on the Postal Payment Bank. You said that you will be starting with 650 branches. Now, how many of those 650, sir? First question would be, how many of those would be rural locations? And moving forward as a rollout plan over the next 3 years, what number do you see these branches going up to so that a very significant portion of rural India can be covered?
First of all, the PM told me do it in 1 year, not in 3 years. And I've given him a commitment, we'll do so. So we have to do it by September 2017. When I say 650 branches, there will be 650 districts. But all the branches will be linked to my rural post office. Digitally speaking, when I talked of handheld device, I meant, and my Dakia, who is like a know your customer, will be active in the field. Not only making the payment bank part of it, but also giving third-party services. Digital, banking, insurance, collection of fee, collection of EMI. Because the sheer platform from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Surat to Silchar, you find a postman everywhere and a post office everywhere. Therefore, Yes Bank can also contemplate, let me say as the minister, that you are open also to come and join for your own services.
Yeah, the lady in the third row.
My goodness, Tavleenji will ask me a question. All right, Tavleenji.
A very sweet question. Minister, you're in the city of where the maximum rich people in India, your investors live, and you're also in the city of Bollywood. So I'm going to ask you a slightly mixed question. You know, you've defended your government very well. On the surface, things are all right. But you know, kehne ko jashne bahar hai. But the fact of the matter is that underneath all that, the private investment in India hasn't picked up. If private investment doesn't start, no jobs will happen. How do you understand this and why do you think it hasn't happened?
Well, the why part I cannot reply, except that today we have created all the ecosystem by facilitating ease of doing business. We have come 12 points up in view of the past. We are online. And today I can tell this gathering that decision making in the government of India under Mr. Modi are completely fair. We know it for sure. All the decisions major are being taken. Now, I will respectfully differ with your assessment. If that would have been the case, why we are notching 7.6% growth? Why our manufacturing is picking up by 9%? In spite of a world slump and 2 years consistent of drought. And why India is consistently being projected as a big investment destination. Why we had the biggest number of FDI in the last 2 years in comparison to the last 5 to 7 years. These are also datas. But yes, we have to be more proactive, and the Indian investors need to trust that India is on the move. They need to come on board, and many of them are coming on board. I can tell you, Digital India by itself is going to offer a $1 trillion economy in the coming 5 to 7 years. 400 billion electronic manufacturing, 350 IT and IT-enabled services, and 250 communication. Tavleen Singh, let me remind you, Indian IT export last year has notched highest ever of $108 billion in the history of India. Electronic manufacturing, when I become minister, only 11,000 crore investment. Now it is 1,20,000 crore in 2 years. Last year, we manufactured 11 crore mobile phones in India, 80% rise. 17 new plants have come in India. All these are facts. So maybe there is need for us to communicate more and assure them well. But I am quite hopeful that Indian investors are also coming on board. Nothing about Bollywood, I suppose, you asked me. Well, I would only say, well, Tavleen Singh ji, I would say only this. I have been on an agenda a number of times. I am coming to Adda for the first time in Mumbai, which is the financial Adda of India. Okay? Yes.
Sir, I am Mahendra Sundesha from Fulchand Exports. We are in garment exports. Garment produces the largest employment, one of the textile being. I am a chairman for my society where MTNL has put up a new exchange. We want the MTNL to give a higher speed of internet and all that. So we want to use MTNL as our chief, and we love that company. But since last, I have been provided with this exchange and everything, but the exchange doesn't work till we put all the pressure. It's lying idle. So my main question is, we lay down the whole fiber, we do all this announcement, everything, but at the end of the day, we need the speed, the connectivity, the MTNL has to work to the end. That is my whole request. And
let me reply to your query. In Mumbai, they are doing fiber to home.
Yeah, FT.
With FTH. With great speed.
Right.
If there is a specific problem of your area, you have brought to my notice.
Parel. Yeah.
Parel,
Yeah.
I'll surely convey it to them,
Yeah.
do the needful.
Yeah.
You have brought the complaint to the minister, action will follow.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
But
complaining.
action will follow in terms of restoring the services.
Yeah.
Whoever asks a question, please take your name.
Ma'am, here, behind, standing,
Could we have your name, please? Yeah.
right here, yeah. Towards that. Hi, my name is Kevin Shah, and my question to the Honorable Minister. Sir, in wake of some amount of curbs and restrictions which have been put on Facebook, Twitter, etc. by the European governments after the Paris bombing and the Brussels bombing, they've asked them to keep an eye and remove the hate speeches. Why can't India do something to the same effect? Where I'm coming from, also on the websites, while there are those who believe that freedom of speech should be there, unlimited, and there are those who believe freedom comes with responsibility, I belong to the latter. Why can't you have pornography? If they want to come in, instead of having a .com or a .in, can they not register themselves and say come as .xxx, so that it becomes very clear and they don't trespass into the other field? Similarly, those who show violence, beheadings, etc., they need not come to India if they wish to. If you cannot curb them, at least say, okay, you come in with a .aaa, so I know there's an adult content, and I as a parent or I can block it or stop it. Why can't we do that? Here you are allowing freedom of speech, but say you please be honest, declare who you are and then come in. That's my question to you.
Well, as far as now, you have given a long speech, but what exactly is the query about regulating the pornographic material?
My question is, can you not have any pornography coming into India or any adult content coming in as .xxx? It comes in as .com. You are sometimes searching for something, you end up over there. And that is a problem. And if I want to block it, it becomes a difficulty. Even if the government wants to block it, it becomes difficult.
You see, very clear, as far as I am concerned, as a minister, I am not in the business of moral policing. Be very clear about it, okay? We respect freedom and respect it fully. And 19.2 of the Constitution itself provides, in case of decency, etc., it can be controlled. Now, what type of control is a matter of large debate. There is a consensus as far as child pornography is concerned. International consensus. Now you have noted or given a suggestion for action. Let me have a debate about this with the people of technology and others, what we can do about it. Except I will flag a larger advisory as a minister. While we fully respect freedom, it is for the operators also to be equally cognizant of the sentiments of Indians. That's how I think it will be proper to approach this whole issue.
Mr. Prasad, a colleague of yours in the Rajya Sabha, Subramaniam Swamy, has launched a rather intemperate attack on the RBI governor, Raghuram Rajan. How do you, what is your view on what he has to say on Governor Rajan, and what view would you take on whether or not Governor Rajan should get another extension?
Vanita, you have seen the comment of the Prime Minister, of the Finance Minister, that we need not debate about the present or future of Mr. Raghuram Rajan in the media. And I don't think a ministerial colleague of Honorable the Prime Minister is going to follow a different line. I don't wish to join any media debate about Mr. Raghuram Rajan. Very clear about
What
it.
about Mr. Subramaniam Swamy?
I don't wish to make any comment also. I think the Finance Minister has already clarified the position. So then let us remain there, and some institution and some persons holding office in the institution must remain insulated from very heated media debate. I also subscribe to that view.
Mr. Prasad, my name is Sanjay Muthar. I run an executive search business. We are a Japanese firm, but I run it for India. My question is a little broader. I've been following politics from outside. Somehow in last few years, the level of debates have gone so pedestrian, and many times people championing either cause indulge into virtually a fight. I remember when you were spokesman, any tough question when you would handle, there'll be smile at the end of your answer.
I'm smiling even now.
And today people just don't smile, and it almost looks like a very cacophony of a sound that happens. So what's your view? I think how can we raise as India the level of debates? I might have position one against the other, but overall I think therefore the polity seems to be going somewhere in a very different direction.
Well, I could say the television debate is taking its own color and context. Okay. Right from day one, I came for the first time in television debates in the year 2000. And I decided I will never speak loudly. But in some debates, I had to say, should I get up and walk out or I'll be heard? That was also a way of saying that. I think Indian people are very mature. And if you see, sober debates are always liked by the people. Shouting and slanging match does not have a big shelf life. I am very clear about it. And Indian democracy in terms of visual media is becoming very mature and ultimately should be left to the judgment of those who view those programs. There is a very interesting story, Vandita, I would like to share. How India is changing, it is linked to social media and all. I had gone to Cochin and my BJP president said ki a family would like to meet you. They came with their young daughter, Anamika, aged about 7 to 8 years. She came and hugged me and she said, Uncle, I always watch you on television and I enjoy you very well. I don't even see cartoons when you are there on that channel. I will not name that channel. I put it on my Facebook, Vandita, hugged her, and I wrote, met young Anamika who watches me on television and ignores even cartoon show when I'm there on that channel. Congratulations to that channel and little Anamika. This is a new India emerging, okay? There were 1.1 million people who saw that particular Facebook. There are about thousands of comments I could not read, my highest ever on my Facebook. And one comment was extraordinary, Manish. Mr. Prasad, little Anamika did not miss a cartoon show because that debate even otherwise is a cartoon show. This is a new India emerging. Let's celebrate this India. People are conveying their views on the social media. They are asking you questions. And what is important is that the debate is also being organized in different channels. So let us celebrate the diversity of India's articulation. Indians at times will speak loudly, at times slowly, but Indians will speak.
Mr. Prasad, on your own webpage, there are some beautiful photographs of you with Atalji and Advaniji. You worked closely with both. You've been a minister in Atalji's government, and you were the lawyer for Advaniji when he was arrested in Bihar during the Rath Yatra. So tell us a little bit about working with both, and do you think the Atal Advani era is past?
Well, Atal Advani era will never be past. They have brought the party where the party is there today by their hard work, their sacrifice. And remember one thing, Vandita, I was a kid when I saw Atalji for the first time and there was no hope that BJP will ever come to power like this. They work very hard. They're extraordinary people, I must tell you. Literally a father figure type. And now so many leaders were reared by them. Today the entire leadership of BJP was trained by them. And it can happen only in BJP. How I began, you talked about my JP movement days. My journey began from Patna College, then Patna University, then Patna town, then Bihar, then national level. This is how I'm working. The same growth evolution was there of many leaders, including my good friend Devendra Fadnavis. I was the national vice president of the youth wing in early 90s. He was also a district president. So this kind of change happening, Shivraj Singh Chauhan was the General Secretary of Youth Wing with me. This is how I'm very proud that my party gives us the space for us to work and the elders bless us. I can only tell you how Atalji used to work. We really miss him, he's unwell. After becoming coal minister, I went to seek his blessings. And I said in Hindi, Manish, aapne mujhe koile mein bhej diya? And he said, bilkul. और बिना कमीज पर कालिख लगाए बाहर निकलिएगा. अब this is the kind of messaging you get. It is a matter of great pleasure. We really miss them.
Mr. Prasad, you talked of your days in the JP movement. So you didn't just work with colleagues in the Sangh Parivar. You also worked with people across the political fence. For instance, Lalu Prasad Yadav was your cellmate in prison. And when he was president of the Patna Students' Union, you were general secretary. So how awkward has it been to also then be the lead lawyer in the public interest litigation and the further scam against him?
First of all, Lalu Prasad was the president of Patna Students' Union. Sushil Modi was the general secretary. I was the assistant general secretary. But by the way, don't compare me in age-wise with Lalu Prasad. Okay, he is much more senior to me. I had just entered the intermediate and Lalu Prasad ji was in the law last year. Since how long? Let's not debate there. Okay. But what is important, we were together in the jail, JP movement, and Lalu ji did very well. But the same Sushil Modi was the PIL petitioner and I was the lawyer. In the Fodder scam, in the bitumen scam, Lalu ji went to jail and rest is history. Therefore, it shows our commitment to the larger canvas of JP movement, namely probity and propriety. And when we found that one of our colleagues, senior colleagues, was found to be remiss when he was the chief minister, we did not bait our eyelid even for a moment in taking up the cause. That's how it explained. But yes, today when you mention that, let me salute Loknayak Jayaprakash Narayan. Working with JP, Tavleenji is here, he has followed him for a long time. I've read her books. You know why I'm a great fan of JP? JP could have been the President of India. JP could have been the Prime Minister of India. And if in 1977, the entire victory of Janata Party was JP's creation. If JP would have just expressed a wish, I want to be the Prime Minister, Morarji or Jagir Ram would have to back out. But that man said no. I think these great traditions are truly a milestone in the polity of India. Therefore, I am singularly fortunate that I work with JP. Please.
It is true and widely known that sometimes you feel that news can be bought. There's so many media newspapers, so many regional channels, and last 10 years there's an explosion in media sector. And sometimes you feel there's huge amount of conflict of interest. What you see may not exist. There's something which is a bought news which is being shown to you, or a bought news which is when you're reading in the paper. Like in banking, financial services sector, how you've seen RBI restricting ownership of promoters to protect the retail deposits, that owners of the bank don't have a big scam or do reckless lending, and thereby a retail deposit never loses money. That's the kind of framework which RBI has done. Can you think about something for future that news media cannot be bought and its independence can be protected by running by institutions and not large promoters and families?
On a larger issue, I am not in favor of government intervention in control of media. I am very clear about my view. It should be more self-regulation, number one. Number two, media people sit together. Yes, I am totally with you on paid news. And Manish, I have been in charge of many states of India. And one fascinating is in Chhattisgarh, where on the same day, in the same page, in the same newspaper, BJP is winning and Congress is winning in the same constituency. So that absurd also happens. Now, what is important is, Indian democracy is now very mature. And as Indian people are mature, it is important that the media itself addresses the menace of paid news in a very, very substantial manner. That's how I see it.
The gentleman, yes, at the back.
Mr. Prasad, I'm Gaurav Goyal from Tata Communications. Sir, I believe that for Indian economy to realize its potential, it's important that we get the digital inclusion. It reaches the last man in the rural area, in the poor people. And we are laying the infrastructure for that. But it is also important that people should be able to afford those services, right? And then we have some of these alternate business models like alternate data, like Airtel had come up with the Airtel Zero, Facebook tried it. But I just want to know your views, like, don't you think that these are some of the things which can actually take this digital medium to the poor people, because they can afford it, because there are new business models, advertisers who are sponsoring data. So is there any views around, some such things can be allowed in future?
You see, I am laying down 5 platforms for digital spread. The first is the optical fiber, which I talked about. The second is the postal connectivity, which I talked about. The third is revolutionizing the common service centers. It was only 88,000, now it is 1,90,000. And lots of women self-help groups are operating these common service centers, giving digital delivery in the hinterland. The third, very important, is the virtual mobile network, which I have approved, whereby you don't need at all any infrastructure. You can become a franchisee and deliver services. And the last is the BPO call centers in the small Mufassil towns of India, whereby 48,000 seats we have selected, and tender is going on. We will give 1 lakh rupees subsidy per head, and you can open call centers in hinterland of India, in small cities of India. And if you go beyond the capital city, minus the digitally rich areas like Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Gurgaon, etc., then you will get further incentive. Therefore, 5 platforms we are creating. But I don't agree with you that people are not very keen. I traveled into India more often than you. And but for the interest of people of India, our mobile phone would not have crossed 1.2 billion. And but for the interest of people of India, we would not have saved 36,000 crores through Aadhaar, that benefit transfer. India is changing. That's all I have to tell you.
Gentleman at the.
Sir, my name is Sandeep. I head one of India's largest BPOs. And the question that you alluded to, I think you've given a fantastic scheme to grow the BPOs in India in tier 2, tier 3 cities. The other aspect of the BPO is the BPO exports. You did mention about overall IT exports, which is growing, but the BPO exports hasn't grown that much, and there is competition from other countries like Philippines. Would you be supportive of the industry for a similar set of measures to grow the BPO exports in a big way, which means to get more business from the US, from UK, from Europe and other places, similar to, in a different way to the schemes that you've done to grow in tier 2, tier 3 cities for domestic BPO?
That 108 billion also includes the BPO exports. But if you have any specific issues in mind, I am most open for it. Why not?
Sure.
BPOs give jobs, they empower, and also provide ancillary issues. I am always open for that.
So we'll take you on that. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Anand.
Raviji, we spoke a lot about Digital India. We spoke a lot about
You
Digital
will also ask me a question. All right, most welcome.
You spoke a lot about Digital India and talking about bandwidth spreading and the internet reaching more people. And we've been talking about this now consistently for over 2 to 3 years. Do you ever think about the fact that globally, the control of the internet rests largely with 2, 3, maybe 4 profit-making corporations? And even American authorities have been very shy of controlling their power and their control. Do you ever think about this, and what is your view on how India should tackle that concern?
Let me make some general views. You have asked a very important question. I have said very clearly, internet is one of the finest creation of human mind. It should not become the monopoly of few. I have said in Parliament also. And the second, internet to become truly global must have linkage with the local. On the issue of internet governance, I hope you are hinting at, I recently gone to Marrakesh in Morocco, and we have supported the multi-stakeholder model, whereby we have said the civil society, the industry, you people, the government, all need to come together to ensure a better internet governance. And we have also ensured that 2 democracies, India and USA, also need to work closer. So that model has been finalized. I'm happy to tell you that Hyderabad is going to host the next conference of internet governance. Therefore, India is going to become a major player also in that process. As far as monopoly is concerned, let me tell you, some companies may have invented internet, but internet today has migrated from being the monopoly of the creator into the hands of the users. That's how I see it. And I think this process is going to become stronger and stronger.
Mr. Prasad, sorry.
Just a quick one. So you've met, Apple has come to India, Microsoft's come to India, every tech player, CEO, the celebrity CEOs have come and met you and met the entire Indian establishment. Which one do you think is most committed to preserving the diversity of the internet?
My take is very simple. I will have a clear policy ecosystem. All are welcome. Let there be a fair competition. Microsoft will come as far as digital services are concerned, architecture are concerned. Apple is most welcome to come and address the big Indian market. I hope you know that now India has 27 crore smartphones. And by the year, maybe 2018-19, it will have 50 crores. And we have added, Vandita will be happy to know, in the last 2 years, we have added mobile phones in India equal to the population of Italy and France. So that's the size of market India is having. So Apple is most welcome. And the best thing was Tim Cook when he said, I will have a love with India for 1,000 years. He's most welcome. Why not?
Mr. Prasad, to bring you back to politics, you've been a member of the Rajya Sabha.
You will not spare me from politics?
No.
All right.
So to bring, you've been a member of the Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha today is actually the arena for the fiercest contest between the government and the opposition. And it's also the place where this conversation and dialogue keeps running into a dead end. Now, the BJP has just had a very good round of assembly elections. So it has reason to feel confident and good about itself. Do you think that should translate into some kind of large-hearted gestures that it can make to the opposition, which could help make the situation in Rajya Sabha a little better?
We have been most accommodative, why not? After the last session, we have bankruptcy bill passed or not? Aadhaar bill passed or not? Many other legislation have come about. I think you be very frank to us. You are talking about the GST. Am I right to understand you? Now, my problem is BJP want GST. From Mamta ji to Mayawati to Mulayam Singh Yadav to Nitish Kumar to Sharad Yadav to DMK to Chandrababu Naidu, everyone supports GST. I don't know what is the problem. I think Congress brought GST, we acknowledge that, but GST is important for the country. And if one leader of the Congress party has a problem with GST, let them take the full credit for it. But the country should not suffer. And yet, if they don't allow, let the constitutional provision of voting in the Rajya Sabha allow to take its own course. Surely we will win a lot of seats this time and the number is going to change. That's what I expect.
Mr. Prasad, you're also from Bihar. So from where now Nitish Kumar has started a sort of, he's declared his intent to form an anti-BJP front at the national level. How do you see that process now with, Mamta Banerjee has come back with a big majority, Jayalalitha has come. The opposition, the regional chieftains are going strong, and it is Nitish Kumar's effort to bring them together against the BJP.
First and foremost, I'm worried about my state. What is happening in Bihar from education to law and order. And one thing on a personal note, I could do so much for my own state in terms of investment and everything, electronic manufacturing, but the kind of situation which is there in my state dissuades the investor. And the same was my agony, Manish, when I was minister in the Vajpayee government. A different government was there. But that is beside the point. Well, Nitish, everyone is entitled to have prime ministerial ambition, Vandita. But there is no vacancy for a long time to come. That's one thing I would like to say. And the second part I have to say, these experiments have gone for a long time. Third front, fourth front, fictional front. If Laluji, Mulayam Singh Yadav, Nitish Kumar could not come together, do you think they will accept? Will Mamta ji accept the Congress party or vice versa, the left? Would Mulayam Singh Yadav accept Nitish Kumar or Mayawati or vice versa? There are a lot of riddles. But what is important is, Indian politics has traveled far and beyond. But the language of this politics of third front is still the 90s variety. That is where I have a serious problem. India of 2016 will not countenance the politics of 90s.
Do you think this plank of prohibition that he seems to be banking on to sort of vault over the fault lines and over state boundaries in a way, do you think that can work?
I can't say it's a good measure he has taken. But ultimately, Vandita, the larger good governance has to be there. And larger good governance means good law and order, peace, investment, industry, jobs, etc. Those are equally important. And if you have kind of toppers which you see about Bihar, okay, even political science is compared to home science, then what else I can say?
Sir, you told us about your time in the Vajpayee government. So tell us something about Mr. Modi as Prime Minister. It seems, that he keeps all of you on a tight leash. Is he really the kind of person he's made out to be?
Let me tell you, it is absolutely a myth. He gives us complete freedom to work. And let me tell you, it is 2 years, the Prime Minister has not intervened in my work even once, except to give a general directions, which is entitled as the head of the team. 3 things of Shri Narendra Modi I would like to flag. The sheer hard work. Landing from Washington in the morning at 6:30 and the cabinet meeting being held at 9:30. No jet lag effect, okay? Second, a very patient listener. And he has said that always learn from even a small man if some new ideas come. And third, innovative ideas. We have just completed 2 years. Manish, you have seen Delhi for a long time, so has Vandita. We could have held a big party and given a souvenir. He said, all of you go to the field. And all the ministers today are in the field. Tomorrow I'm going to Chhindwara from here, you know that. I had traveled Mumbai in the first, then I went to Mathura, then I went to Kakinada, then I went to Jodhpur, tomorrow Chhindwara, then to Jamshedpur. And all the ministers go, meet the people, civil society, media, professionals, talk to them, give your feedback, take their feedback, how we are doing. That's how Mr. Modi's government work on the ground. And these are very fascinating initiatives.
Let me take you back to your ministry, Mr. Prasad. What would you say is your defining achievement in the first 2 years of your ministry? And what would the roadmap be for the next 3 years for you?
Well, I don't think I need to be judgmental about myself. It is better for you people to be judgmental. I do my job. My motto in life is very clear. The chair is temporary. But you must work in a manner that your work speaks for you. And sitting in Mumbai, I can tell you, this whole film line, black mafia money control was did by me in a modest way. And today I need to remember Mr. Yash Chopra. We worked together, he was the FICCI chairman, Vandita. And the corporate people getting involved in filmmaking, film funding, we worked a lot. And today a lot of investment in filmmaking is clean money. The Goa Film Festival was started by me. The Tata Sky was pushed by me. The FM channel was liberalized by me. This is how I let my work speak for me. About Coal India I talked about. Here I have seen the postal turnaround, the BSL turnaround. But the larger is pushing the digital ecosystem for the country. And let me tell you, India is at the cusp of a big digital revolution. And this I am seeing myself after being the minister. Let me become an agent for this change. I'll be very satisfied.
Sir, my name is Arvind Paranjpe. I am from the Nehru Planetarium here. Now we run, it's a slightly new, maybe new idea and request to you. So we run 3 programs in Marathi, 2 in Hindi and 1 in English. Now my request is that the mobile phones have the FM radio. What I would like to do is that if you can make this radio frequency free over say about 15 meters, then what I can do is that when my Marathi show is going on, if someone wants to listen to the same show in say Hindi, English or even Tamil or Malayalam or Bengali, I can actually provide them that facility. What I need is that free radio channel, say up to 15 to 20 meters. Now this would be very useful for people like us who are in the science outreach or public outreach, where even if you go to some museum and then one can actually listen to the commentary which is about that particular exhibit.
Well, you're quite welcome. You give me the concrete proposal, except to say I'm not the INB minister. Therefore, the radio part has to be taken care of by the INB minister. I have only one caveat to add. Manish will bear me out. Now there is a clear Supreme Court judgment repeatedly. All the natural resources must be settled through auction, in which our government firmly believes. From spectrum to coal mines to FM channels, spectrum to minerals, etc. But in that larger framework, if there is a provision for that, surely we'll look into it.
The gentleman at the back, please.
Yeah, my name is Deepak Sethi, and I'm a business strategy consultant. Mr. Minister, I have been a NDA well-wisher, but I am slightly disappointed, actually largely disappointed. If I can do some plain speaking, and with your permission, sir. Thank you. So there are 2 narratives that this government has been running in the last 2 years. The first one is the growth and the governance narrative. The second one, I wouldn't call it the Hindutva narrative, but I think I heard it in a channel today, the reductionist narrative. And I'd like to leave a suggestion with you. On the first one, on the growth and governance one, there has been a mixed bag. I know there is a lot of good work that's happened, but I think it'll take time before it shows up. You also gave some examples. The second narrative is turning out, the reductionist narrative, seems to be turning out and creating a lot of issues and concerns in a lot of people in this country, sir. And my sincere suggestion is if you can actually park the reductionist narrative on the back burner for at least 2 more years. Just focus on the growth and governance narrative as you went through in the elections. Just keep this absolutely behind. And once you have this wheel moving, you can take a view on it. And just to give you the examples of these reductionist narrative, you know, whether it is the beef issue, whether it is the textbook, you know, kind of revision issue, whether it is taking away Nehru from, from history books, etc., whether even it is the Governor Rajan controversy, etc. All these seem to be taking the basic focus away, to my mind, both of the government as well as the country. And that's my humble suggestion, if you could kind of take it forward, sir. Your comments would be welcome.
I take note of your suggestion, but let me make it very clear to you. When our government and the Prime Minister firmly declared Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, that's what we are doing. Otherwise, we would not have been winning these elections. After elections, we also lost some. Recently, we have swept whole of Assam election, you know it very well. But I would like to highlight to you, in a vast country like India, there may be some discordant notes. Why should you judge us only by the discordant notes? Why didn't it strike you the very outstanding visit of the Prime Minister to USA, the kinds of agreement which has come about? Recently he went to Afghanistan. What happened there? The Chabar Port Agreement, which completely gives a new impetus to India's strategic imperatives. What happened in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, the whole Indo-Gulf region relationship are being given a new architecture, particularly to suit India's interest. Therefore, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of governance, in terms of delivery, you need to concentrate on that. But I must tell you one thing. We give respect to Jawaharlal Nehru, why not? But if those who have been left out, either consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or by omission, and I would like to flag this issue here today. It is very important. I raised this issue in the Parliament. I would like to reiterate here because you have asked about that. Sardar Patel died in 1950. He was given Bharat Ratna in the year 1991. So many were given in between. If this question is raised, what is wrong with this? Maulana Azad died in 1959. He was given Bharat Ratna in 1992. These questions are relevant. People are asking these questions. Now what we are doing is, all those who have sought to create India must be given legitimate space. It is not reductionist. That's all I have to say.
Ashank Desai, Mastech, IT industry. No politics, IT industry question.
You are bringing me back to IT.
Yes,
Vanita,
for a change, your domain question. I admire for Prime Minister and you what you are doing in Digital India. You have outlined it. In fact, I remember the speech that he gave us when some of us were felicitated as event when you were also present in NASSCOM as a contribution to IT industry. And I was requesting you should talk more often to us. But the real issue, and this is very important, that e-governance part of your Digital India will not happen as fast as you wish unless we streamline the processes of government to buy software, to implement software, and to make it happen. And that is a major constraint. I understand the issues and we all know that. But my company Mastech, for example, works with the governments in US and UK, and we have found it much easier to make it happen. And some of the big systems we have done there, we would like to do it here, but there are constraints and so on. I won't talk about it. The point I am making is, sir, you are doing great job in hardware part, the fiber part, and hats off to all of you. But if we don't solve this problem of streamlining the government purchase implementation, and it's not an easy problem, it's a tough problem, I appreciate. But we in NASSCOM industry are talking to you. Please do something fast.
I think you need to meet me separately.
Yeah, sure.
Adda is not the occasion for that.
Of course.
Because you want me to streamline. A lot of open source materials and policy we have done. If something more required to be done, we are most open for that. That's all I can tell you.
Good evening, Mr.
I have been trying to sort of, I think, look at this whole thing of what the government has been doing for Digital India for, I think, almost a good 2 years now. And I've been with digital from 21 years, from the time of ICQ. In fact, the company which is sort of, in fact, putting all together right now, I was with the Express Group 21 years back as well. And what I personally always have thought is that if we can only make a change, it's only going to happen with digital becoming rural in terms of language. My simple question is, why isn't the government or even large media houses trying very hard to actually make that in terms of the language? Why are we still obsessed with English as a language of digital India? Isn't it important to put a footprint of all other languages, and what's the roadmap ahead?
I think India to become truly digital must go through local languages. English also, okay? This is the first thing. Rural India is also understanding English too well. You go to the rural India and see how many English schools are there, even though the spelling of English may be incorrect. But that is a different chapter altogether. We are promoting local language content very much on digital platform. There is a proper system working in place. Domain names have come in Hindi, and we are making extra effort to promote local content in local languages on digital platform. It is a process going on very fast. We need to do it more. That's all I can tell you.
We have space for about 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
Good evening, Minister.
It is a proper press conference, Manish. More than a press conference. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to bring to your attention about the e-waste. Now we go to the market and we see phones available for 1,000 rupees for people to buy. Then I am worried that if we have 50 crore phones of that quality in the market, then what will happen to the environment? So whether your ministry is setting up any standards for recycling of, those cheap phones?
I think the Ministry of Environment has already laid a proper, very tough standard for e-waste. We are working together. And I think you may have seen I have taken a tough stand on India becoming a second-hand market. Okay. It is also designed to ensure that e-waste does not become an issue. We are addressing that. We need to do more. But I have one caveat to add. India is becoming digital. These questions are important, but we should not lose focus of the main issue of the great digital profile which India is acquiring, which is becoming a... You don't forget one thing. Today, we are second to China in terms of smartphones, in terms of digital connectivity, in terms of mobile spread. Therefore, these are very important issues. Let us try to focus on that, but we don't at all lose sight of the larger issue of e-waste.
Mr. Prasad, this is Praveen, and looks like this is the last question, so I will detail it a little. Yeah, I think I have been given the signal. Okay, so one thing, like a lot of questions being asked to you, and you are on the side and everybody else on the other side. So what I want to ask, like government doing a lot of things, and I am not part of it, I'm not contributing, and I think so are a lot of people who are here. There's a lot of skill across India. So how is the entrepreneurship opportunities being thrown to the senior leaders within India to come and contribute? To take an example like post office, you said, like a lot of work I think you would have done, your team would have done, right? But really some strategists from the private sector or the leaders sitting around here have contributed, I don't know. So are those entrepreneurship opportunities being thrown? And if so, how do we get to know? Because if they are, then probably we don't know about it.
I would only request you, you please begin to read more about what we are doing in terms of promoting entrepreneurship. First is Startup India. So many particular incentives from income tax to profit, etc. have been given. We had a big conclave of startups in India. In electronic manufacturing, we have come with 10,000 crores of this development fund to promote entrepreneurship. Daughter fund, Park in Can Bank, we have given about 10-15 approvals. And very recently, we have made an amendment in the DOP procedures, Manish, whereby people from private sectors can also head the PSUs. Therefore, we are doing our best. You are most welcome to be on board. This payment bank is also to be run very, very professionally from CEO down below. So we are doing our best to incorporate the best talent of the private sector. You are most welcome.
Sir, if I can...
there is abundance of information. Like if you go for the Skill India, right? You find now so many apps. You go to the Google, you find so many sources around that. So you really need to do a lot of digging into to understand what is real. And so I'm saying there's abundance of information.
I take your suggestion. Yeah. If there is information scarcity, there is a problem. If there is information abundance, there is a problem. Concentrate for half an hour, you'll get everything. And we are coming with an Umang app. On the same app, you will have 1,000 services. Whatever you want will be available. Okay?
Sure, sir. Thank you.
If I can just ask the last question. When are we going to have the next round of spectrum auctions?
Oh my goodness.
If I can add to that, when is the next cabinet reshuffle?
The second part, Vandita, is PM's prerogative, okay? So I cannot make any speculation. As far as spectrum auction is concerned, very soon, couple of months, we will be likely to move the cabinet note very shortly. And I can only tell you this headline for you if you want the headline. From the highest quantity of spectrum we are going to place for auction this time. More than 2,000 megahertz of all the bands. And there shall be no occasion for any spectrum scarcity. I am very clear about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Anant Goenka, who's our whole-time director and head of new media, he will present a memento.